me right now is the global chairman of EY and CEO, Mark Weinberger, who served as the chief of staff on President Clinton's 1994 Bipartisan Commission on Tax Reform. Mark, it is great to see you.
Always fun, Maria.
Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, let's talk about tax reform. First of all, do you believe we will get tax reform done in year one of the next president's term?
Well, tell me who the next president's going to be, and I'll tell you.
That's absolutely. All right, what about Trump?
So if Trump gets in, clearly you're going to look to the Congress to see where tax reform is going to come from. He's already signaled he's revising his initial plan, so he's going to move towards probably where the blueprint that just came out for the Republican Congress, where both the Democrats now, President Obama and the Republicans, are talking about lowering the overall corporate tax rate, getting rid of some of the deductions and credits, more competitive international system. We're going to eventually get there, but it's not going to be easy.
All right, so Trump is talking about a 15% corporate tax rate. This is part of the plan that I actually think is going to really be incredible for the markets. If, in fact, the markets start figuring out that the tax rate's going to go from, what, 35% to 15%, that's big.
It is big, Maria, but remember, we are in political season here, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to be a system that has to also be budget accountable, right? So
how do you pay for it?
How you pay for it. We still have major debts and deficits with the entitlement programs. We haven't seen what he's willing to do there. He hasn't said he's willing to do anything. You're going to have to deal with the spending side. There will be pro-growth from tax reform. That's the key issue, though. If you come and let this $2+ trillion that are sitting overseas and move to a territorial system, as you're saying, you get the corporate rates down to even the 25% average around Europe, or 20% like the blueprint in the Republican plan, that's going to unlock a lot of jobs and a lot of growth opportunities.
Right, because he's saying that he could get growth up to 4%, and with that comes an enormous amount of revenue. He thinks you pay for it by growth.
Well, even the scoring estimators in government now are starting to recognize when you have massive tax reform like that, there is going to be a dynamic effect that the economy will grow. Whether it's 2, 3, 4%, we don't know. One thing to be clear, though, it will take time for the tax reform to come in and phase it in. The growth will not be in year one, and we just have to recognize that. It's going to be year 2, 3, 4. But it is going to be very positive for business and jobs if they get something like the Republicans are proposing, like the president even has talked about in negotiating with the Congress.
All right, let's talk about Hillary Clinton's plan now, because that's a whole different story. I mean, she says she wants to actually raise taxes on a big portion of the population. How's that going to impact things?
Well, I think you know how I would feel about that. Right now, we can't have a tax increase with how slow the economy's going. Just how high would you go? There's no plan there in what she's got. There's a lot of individual initiatives. Now, on the individual side, of course, she'd like to go ahead and raise rates on individuals again, certainly for the very wealthy.
Yeah, 4% higher on income gains, and then you've got capital gains tax, 24 to 39.6%. She wants to tax the highest earners, certainly.
That's right. And there's no discussion on corporate taxes or business taxes, which creates the jobs.
Right. No discussion on corporate taxes, which really surprises me, because that's one of the things that will get corporations to hire people.
Well, absolutely. And you know, remember the last time we changed the corporate income tax was 30 years ago? We didn't have the internet. We didn't have iPhones. We need to update the system. And the Democrats and Republicans, the good news is, Maria, on Capitol Hill understand that.
Yeah.
So they're going to take us there regardless. But you're right, you need presidential leadership. In 1986, you had Reagan working with Chairman Rostenkowski. Democrat, Republican came together and got it done. It will take presidential leadership.
The other thing is Hillary Clinton is saying we want to tax the rich. Well, what is the rich? $250,000 in income is what she's saying, and that's two people. If you have a couple, a double income couple bringing in $250,000, that's rich. That's going to hit small business.
Well, absolutely. You talk about the majority of companies these days in the United States are pass-through entities, S corporations, partnerships, limited liability companies. They get hit when you talk about that type of a tax on $250,000. That's their business income. How's
the convention going so far, and where is business, do you think, in this election?
Well, business is waiting to see. I mean, we've got a lot of banter back and forth about personalities, about, you know, he said, she said. We need to see the policy. That's what business wants, right? Certainty is really important in the business community. So really important to see the next president, whoever he or she may be, who are they going to appoint to the 300 biggest positions in the government, and how are they going to interact with business? What's the regulatory environment going to be? Maria, big question, what's going to happen in the Senate? That's a huge issue. They oversee a lot of the regulatory processes for business. So business is very involved, very active. They're looking for, as you know, tax, trade. But the bottom line is we need more trust, right? Because the business as well as government isn't trusted to take on these major reforms right now. Yeah. They're going to have to start convincing the American people why trade is good, why tax reform is good, so that we can get this inclusive growth of these people who are right now really being left out.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned regulation, because that's another thing Trump wants to do, roll back regulation. Hillary said she wants to build on it.
Yeah, that's a huge cost for business right now. Major regulation, whether it's healthcare, Dodd-Frank, whether it's small business regulation, really important to clean that out, let business grow.
Mark, thanks so much for weighing in.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Always great to see you. Mark Weinberger there. Don't